Good evening, friends, fans, family, and followers, to the newest episode of Last Caw, Frater Crow's Experiences. I am your host, Frater Crow, from the Coterie of Samil, Arcane, Occult Order, and Celestial Oddities Radio, and all the shows that are under that umbrella. I have been gone for several weeks. I am back this evening with an open discussion. So, for anybody listening out there, feel free to jump in on whatever platform you're tuning in from. Leave questions, leave input and comments. We'll throw them up on the screen, we'll read them off, and we'll have a good time together tonight. We'll give it a couple minutes for people to jump in and get things started. I apologize for my absence. I've just been very, very swamped with different projects and things that I'm personally working on, with family stuff, with paranormal research outings that we've been doing, and so forth. So it's been an eventful last 6 weeks, I think. I'll have to actually look and see when the last episode was. Let's do that now, actually. Let's jump in, and our last episode, 34 days ago. So, yeah, it was almost been 5 weeks. I knew it was somewhere around that time frame. I've just been so busy. But tonight I had some freedom, and didn't really have a show specifically planned, and I said, you know what, I have a little bit of time, let's jump on here and get it. And nothing better than spending a Thursday night with you fine folks. So hopefully some people will jump in and join us. We have some chat coming in right now. Amber, we have jumping in with hey Amber, how you doing? We have Kyle P with Hell's Frater Crow. Thank you, brother. Hell to you as well. We have Naga Shamash Abu Typhon with PA all day. Have a great show, brother. Just checking on you. Yeah, man, thank you for checking in. Like I said, just been really busy with different projects and things going on lately. So I apologize. There's been a 5-week hiatus on the show, but we're here. So cheers to you guys. And anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them. We'll read them off. Open discussion. Everything's free game. I've always told everybody I'm an open book. So I have nothing to hide from you. Anything you guys want to know about me, my practice, so forth, life, paranormal, supernatural, outings, you ask it, I'll read it, we'll answer it. Absolutely. Cheers, brother. Yeah, so several weeks ago, I went on vacation. That was, I think, why I missed the first or second week in the last 5. Went to the ocean. And we were also working, Natasha and I, we are the co-founders of the Coterie of Samil, Arcane, Occult Order. We were running a 14-day exercise for those that wanted to participate, and it was on reflections of death, where we each day for 14 days looked at death from a different aspect. And we thought about it throughout the day and reflected and did introspection on it. And there was a period each night where everyone was to do a 20 to 30 minute meditation on this ideal of death, and then journal it into their own personal grimoire or book. And over a 14-day span, how you are different at the end of those 2 weeks than you were going into it, how you think about things differently, how you feel about yourself, your family, your friends, your job, your world. And it is a very moving exercise, very potent, very powerful, very life-changing. And it seems like it certainly was for the 18 people who participated in that group. So thank you to those 18. We will do that again next year around the same time. So if you missed that, next year you get the opportunity to do it again. It'll be bigger and better next year. We'll have more time to add to it, iron out any of the kinks in it. I have done this for a long period of time in my own personal practice as a reflection of death each and every day. But this is a way of concentrating those ideals to a 14-day exercise. And that went very well. But that was during the time where I was at the ocean as well. So we didn't do radio shows those 2 weeks because we were doing the exercise and I was on vacation. We also had an outing. I can't remember where we went. We went to... I'm drawing a blank right now where our last investigation was. It's just poof, gone. We went somewhere. We went and investigated and did research somewhere, and it was cool. I just don't remember where. So that was in the mix, and then we also had a lecture at Little Shop of Lilith in Butler. My radio show partner Daniel James and I, who run Paranormal Guys podcast, did the first ever in-person private event for Paranormal Guys, where we had a discussion in front of a nice little crowd. Privately, it wasn't aired on the radio. No one out there is going to hear that discussion. It was for specifically the group that was there. Now, I'm sure over time I will give excerpts of that and present that to you guys on some of the things I had to say that night. But obviously, the event, the discussion amongst the crowd and ourselves will remain private as a special event. So that's kind of catching you guys up a little bit on some of the things we've been doing here at Celestial Oddities Radio. And just having a lot of fun, as always, staying busy and doing a lot of personal work in my own practice and for the cult. We're gearing up for a lot of stuff we got coming up for our private rituals as a group, individually, and then some events and some public outings that we're going to be working on. We're going to be doing some cemetery work coming up, where we're going to go and spend a day cleaning headstones, raking, chopping up wood, removing debris and trash, and, you know, picking a cemetery or two and doing as much work as we can to clean that spot up and give homage and reverence to the dead. We will be doing some different public events and charities, gathering canned food or dog food as well, to donate to food drives and to animal shelters, and a lot more lectures, classes, you name it. So it's a lot of things in the works. If you guys haven't seen, we do have a bunch of merchandise posted that we're going to be launching within the next 2 weeks. So I think there's 6 or 7 different t-shirts. There's some stickers and some other things that the Coterie of Samil will have launched. So if you're looking to buy a shirt and represent the Coterie, represent, you know, true devil worship, and be out there, you know, showing that off as a walking billboard, we would love to have you representing. We're also going to be launching some new merchandise under the Celestial Oddities Paraseekers group for our paranormal research, trying to relaunch our old shirt, as well as a brand new one that we recently had a design made for. So lots of cool stuff coming out, guys. You know, thank you for your patience on everything. Always working behind the scenes. If you don't see me for a while, it's not that I'm not working. It's usually the opposite. I'm so busy working on things that I'm not here to spend time with you guys, just trying to iron stuff out for everyone. But it is always great to spend a Thursday night with you fine folks, and like I said, enjoy some good conversation. Okay, so let's take a look. We are at, where are we at? We have, is the 18th of July, folks. We are over halfway through this year. It seems like it's flying by so incredibly quick, as it always seems to, but this year has just been oddly quick. I had set some pretty lofty goals of what I wanted to accomplish in 2024, personally, with my family, with my career, with the Coterie, with Celestial Oddities Radio, you name it. I set a lot of goals. I make a lot of lists. Those that are close to me laugh at my lists. I'm obsessive compulsive, so I'll sit and make little lists of like 35 items, and then I not only do I make that list, I'll make a list from the list of a list from the list, and I'll just keep going and refining that down until I have like calibrated out what I think will happen when, in what order, how can I accomplish it, you know, perfectionist type shit. And I'm proud to say that we've done a lot this year. 7 months in, it's gone by quick, but in those 7 months, we have accomplished a hell of a lot. And, excuse me, I look forward to what we can do in the remaining 5 months that are left. Okay, Just looking at some comments that are coming in on the phone. Okay. Um, like I said, some of the things we're working on are those different benefits and fundraisers, those different call to action days. I have a couple other goals I'm working on. Is like a call to action where we can do a lot of good for the community and the world, but I got to figure out how to pull it off. So we'll announce more of that stuff coming up. But some of this involves like reaching out to local government and needing to be given authorization to do certain things within certain communities um, in the right way, and hopefully get backing to do it. And one thing I will say about the Satanic Temple is that they are kind of similar in regard to how I feel about that. That if you were able to, and you have the means and the mind and the will to go out and help others, then you should. And I do I'm not a big follower of their organization. I don't believe in using Satanism as a political ploy to push radicalism of belief. Now, when I say radicalism, I mean, yes, everyone should be accepted, all faith bases. And if you put up your monument, we should be able to put up ours. But it's really a way of creating shock and awe under the heading of Satanism. And I'm not a huge fan of that, but I do appreciate the good things that they go out and do. And that's my organization is very similar in that regard, that we believe in doing good for people. And it's funny to hear because I mainly don't like human beings, but I still feel this need that I should try to, while I'm here on this earth, do as much good as I can in ways like that, where you're going out and just doing something good for the earth, doing something good for the dead, doing something good for people less fortunate. And some of those people are going to be good people. Some of them are going to be pieces of shit. You don't have to worry about the semantics of it. Just do it, earn back that positive karma. And it's just funny to see devil worshipping organizations doing so much good, doing those Christian values that are preached so much by other organizations that look down on the less fortunate. Now, with being gone for 5 weeks, I don't know how many people are going to be tuning in this evening, so we'll see. If there's not a lot, we might not stick around too long. But hey, Nocturne, how you doing, brother? Nice to have you joining us. But yeah, it's just nice to be able to use our good fortune to be able to help less fortunate, to bring them up to a better status of good fortune. So why not do that, and do that in the name of Samael Satanas, and El Acher. Hopefully everyone's having a good evening, having fun, enjoying the summer. It's been super fucking hot here in Pennsylvania. The last 2 days actually are the first break we've had in about 2 weeks, where it's been like 90, 95 every day, just cranking us. Just a straight wall of humidity and heat, which, not complaining. It's been nice. It's been a very warm summer. But the last 2 days, that's tapered off and dropped down. And it's like, oh, thank goodness. Needed a little bit of a break. Lost like 10 pounds just in sweating. Gaining it back tonight with my beer consumption. Need to type something real quick. Let's do add. Okay, let's do. Bear with me. There we go. We'll leave that up. If you have a question, feel free to ask. Who needs a sauna when you have this heat? Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Trust me. But like I said, no complaints. It's been a nice summer. I'm not a big winter guy. I mean, don't get me wrong. Winter has its own perks and its own things you like from it. I like autumn. I like the venturing into the winter months. the leaves changing, the cool air, the smell of the autumn air. Winter, it does have a certain appeal to it, but I'm not a big winter guy, and I would pick heat any day. Now I know so many other people feel opposite. They say, you know what, I can always, um, you know, I would rather be adding layers on than not being able to take a layer off and still sweating. And I'm opposite. You know what I mean? I'd sweat my balls off before I choose to be freezing. Falling behind on my reading list. And when I say I'm falling behind, most people would laugh because I set myself to a goal every year of 50 books. And I have done quite well this year, but I have fallen slightly behind because some of the books I've been reading recently are very in depth, very analytical. Sometimes the pages take 2, 3, 4 reads. So if the book's already 300 pages, and you have to read each page 3 times, you're at 900 pages, and that takes a lot of time to be able to read a 900-page thorough examination of occult esoteric belief. And I'm looking at the rest of the year and where I'm at and where I need to be, and I'm like, I don't think I'm hitting it. I will probably finish somewhere around the 35 to 40 book marker, but we'll see. It just depends. The couple I have coming up are very large. It makes me irritable. I don't want to be sticky. Drink your water and watch how you talk to me unless I'm at the ocean. I can understand that. I mean, the heat, I don't know. I'm kind of weird in that regard. I can understand how heat irritates people and heat can make people more aggressive. But I don't think I really get more aggressive. I'm already always intense. So I don't think it really amplifies that. It can. I mean, when you are sitting there all day sweating your fucking balls off, you can be a little bit irritable. But I don't think I'm meaner to anybody or more intense to anybody specifically. Um, I think it could be, once again, the opposite for me. If I'm sitting there freezing my ass off and I'm shivering and I'm like, ugh, and you're fucking with me, I'm going to be very angry because I'm already pissed off that I'm cold. Heat, like I said, just doesn't seem to affect me near as much. Yeah, I think so. We got a question here I'll throw up on the screen from Nocturne. He said that can you mix items based on the types of magic you work with? If you're meaning like mixing different elements of magic of different systems and paths, absolutely. Some would tell you no. The purist would say never. But the syncretist, which I certainly am, I would say absolutely. I mean, to find what resonates with you and to bring each piece of resonating background together in a coherent system, I think is very important to making your path. The purists are following a path that was laid out before them. So if you're a grimoire purist, for example, your magic's powerful. I'm sure you're getting amazing results, and you can say you stuck to the book note for note, and that is awesome. But you're only performing the magic that was already made from someone else. Because if you're a purist, you can't break from that path, right? So you're not really doing your magic. You're doing someone else's magic, and it's just being performed by you. Now, if you look at different systems, you study different theologies, cosmologies, cosmogonies, theosophies, philosophies, psychologies, you name it. If you go through the different fields of belief and understanding and diagnosis, then you take all these different fragmented pieces that are powerful within themselves that resonate with you, and you're able to find a way to glue them together in your web of power and make it into a coherent system. I think that is the ultimate form of magic and expressionism to do, and that's certainly what we do at the Coterie of Samil and what I do in my personal practice. I call it Gnostic diabolism. Synostic being a mixture of syncretic, which is bringing all kinds of different things together, Gnostic, in the belief that there is a good and evil and that this world was created by the demiurge and we were to break free of that. In diabolism, because we work with the devils to gain higher levels of gnosis, understanding, transcendence, and freedom. So Synostic diabolism is the bringing together of multiple different forms of belief through the work of devils to break free of the prison of the flesh. And that's what we practice at the Coterie. So I certainly, Nocturne, believe that you can bring those aspects together how you see fit. It's your magic. That's the thing I tell people is, who cares if your neighbors, your friends, your family naysay you, or they perform magic and they say, well, that's not how I do it, or I don't believe in it, or I think you're wrong here, 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 and here. Fuck them. If it doesn't match what your belief is, what you feel strongly and passionate about, it doesn't matter. Your magic is your magic. Do what works for you, because at the end of the day, you shouldn't be doing magic to show off for people. Shouldn't be doing magic to be accepted by people. Shouldn't be doing magic to impress people. If you're doing any of those three, you're doing them for the wrong reasons. So if you're doing magic for the betterment of self and for the transcendence of spirit within you to higher levels of consciousness, then you need to follow the patterns that resonate with you, because another man's magic or woman's magic that doesn't resonate isn't going to get you there. Fuck everybody else's belief. Do you. Now, he said, like, if someone does both vampire magic and void magic, can those elements be on your altar at the same time? Well, that just depends, once again, on your belief. I believe if you're doing different forms of magic, you should probably have different designated spaces for that magic. For example, in my temple, I have an altar specifically to Hecate and to spirits of the PGM, the Greek magical papyri. That's one altar, and I only do Hecatean type of sorcery on that altar. I have another altar specifically for ancestral divination and communication with my ancestors. I have another altar specifically for Cainitic Gnosis, which is working with Cain in a very dark, malevolent aspect. I have another altar specifically for another practice that I'm involved in that I won't speak of. And then I have another altar specifically for the Synostic diabolism and Cytherean Satanism that is my satanic type of altar. And I don't mix them. I mean, when I'm doing the Cytherean Satanism, it's going to be on that altar only, and with those aspects and those tools. Whenever I'm doing Hecatean work, I'm on her altar with her tools. So I would say you can do them in the same ritual space as long as they are delineated into their own space within the space. But I wouldn't be doing the same altar for 5 different forms of magic, because you will have a clash with energies. The second thing I would say is don't mix tools. My athame for Satanism is not the athame that I use for Hecatean sorcery and so forth. Each of my 5 altars that I have within my temple, each have their own ceremonial ritual knives, each have their own ceremonial ritual liquid libation offering bowls, their own centerpieces or statues, their own wands, their own incense burners, their own candle holders and candles. So they each have their own delineated space within the temple. They all have their own delineated tools within each altar, but I do work with them all in one large ritual space. And, I know everyone's means and capabilities are different. You might not have as big of a space, or you might have a space that's 5 times bigger than mine. You work with what you have in the best way you are able to do so. Look at your space, look at what practices mean something to you, and figure out the formula from there. But you have to keep in mind, you also can't do everything. If you like 14 different forms of magic, you need to synthesize that down to about 3 and follow those 3. I said I have 5 altars, but really I have 4 different branches, and they're very different than one another, and they each require focus, and one of them I don't focus on near as much. It's more of a back burner side. But my Satanism, my Hecatian sorcery, and my other side that I'm not speaking of, those three take my focus. The fourth one is there from time to time. I still pay homage. Fuck everyone else. You do you. You need to put that on a shirt. I have lots of shirts that I would like to put out. I mean, I have a lot of shirts out and a lot of merchandise I've released over the years. Between my band, my rap music, the occult side of things, the paranormal team, I put out like 25 t-shirts. But I also wanted to get one that says fuck occultists, because even though I like talking to you guys, even though I mingle with a lot of people, I don't like a lot of occultists. I don't like a lot of leaders within the occult. I don't like a lot of the horse shit that's published in books these days. I don't like a lot of the shit that is being put out as magic. Now, you could say, wait a second, Crow, that's hypocritical. You just said follow you and do what works for you. Absolutely. Do what works for you, but when you take on an authoritative position and you're teaching other people and you're just coming up with radical off-the-wall things that don't really make sense or connect in any form or fashion, you have the right to do that. Freedom of speech, absolutely. But a lot of this shit's just cosplay LARPing, like I said, and I've been very avid on speaking of that. I've not been shy. I've not held my tongue, as I never have, never will. Very unfiltered, very raw, that a lot of these fucking folks on the internet, on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Snatch Chat, fucking TikTok. I don't have a TikTok, but I know everybody's on TikTok. The witch talk shit. A lot of these folks don't practice magic, like I've said before. They are glorified fucking wannabe posers who read a book one time and then all of a sudden became grand fucking warlocks after reading one book. And they're out there teaching people. They're out there selling classes and selling, lessons and all this stuff after, one or two books that they've read, never performed magic, but they're going to teach you how to do it. Learn how to become a master in 30 days from someone who still lives with their parents in their basement, who doesn't have a job, doesn't fucking drive a car. Yeah, let me learn mastery from someone who is a complete bum. That makes sense, right? If you were a master, you'd be a master. You'd have your shit together. So I do speak very outspoken about the fact of where the state of occultism is, because occultism is that which is hidden. And just like the Kabbalah is handed down, that's tradition, Kabbalah tradition. It's been passed on. There's reasons for those things, because real occultism should be obscure. It should be hidden in a way. It should require thousands of hours of research, study, and practice to master it. And it seems like these days everybody's a master. I've never called myself a master. I never will. Even to people who consider me a master of magic, they always have known that I've told them I am nothing. I am merely a student. And I meet a lot of people that are like, I am the master. And I'm like, what the fuck is this guy talking about, or this lady talking about, So you have to be careful of these dollar store gurus that are out there, a dime a dozen. They usually disappear within a couple years, and they don't really have anything relevant to say. And that's been the case as long as I've been in occultism, which it's been 22 years. Now, like I said, though, that same person that writes that book that I might think is horseshit, if that magic works for that person, then they need to say, hey, Crow, fuck off, man. It works for me, blow me. And hey, they're rightful to say that. And if their followers follow them and it works for them, then fuck yeah. Then screw me. But the problem we face is there is a epidemic of delusions of grandeur. There is an epidemic, and we've talked about this on a past episode here. There is an epidemic of fooling yourself. Because a lot of people getting into the occult want to better their life. They want to learn secrets. They like hidden, ooky, spooky, wild things that seem like they're just beyond the curtain. You know, I live this normal, mundane life, and I want to spice it up a little bit. I want to talk to devils and demons and angels and elementals. So it seems so spooky and so hidden and so, ooh, I got a rush from it. When they don't understand, it's very serious, and it's a science that science doesn't acknowledge yet. But it is very much a science, and you have to learn how to do it. Because if you mix the wrong chemicals at the wrong time, you blow your fucking face off. But if you mix them right to a perfect formula, then you can get the same results over and over again and reap the rewards of that experiment. And a lot of people these days want it so bad that they read this book. They learn from this dollar store guru this way of doing something. And they're saying it's just these 5 easy steps and I'll fucking be able to call the hordes of hell straight down. And they go do it. And they fool themselves into believing it's happening. And I'm not saying that that doesn't have its own place. Sometimes that's how a lot of people start out. You have to, fool yourself to get further along the way, and then it really starts to happen. And then you know the difference. Like, holy shit, I thought it was happening before, but now it's really happening. But a lot of people stay in that stage where they do these 5 steps. They do them sloppily. They didn't fucking study enough. And they just go in and do this haphazard bullshit fucking ritual. And then they're like, oh my God, he came down and stood in front of me and he talked to me and he changed my life. And meanwhile, the spirit never actually was there. It was their own imagination. And I must delineate that imagination is used in ritual in a potent and powerful way. And that is standard. That's what should happen. But there's another form where you're just truly making it up. You're letting your mind run wild and create phantasmagorical things that aren't actually happening. And there has to be that delineating line between them. As someone who's serious in your work, you need to be able to say, what is me creating my own happenings and what is truly happening? And that's the line that you need to find and separate. All right, separate altars for each type of magic and don't mix tools. Got it. Yeah, exactly, brother. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't do that because your knife that's specifically consecrated to work with, goetic or diabolical, spirits, shouldn't then be the knife that you use on your Enochian or Enochian altar to call angels down. Unless it's a rite that involves both and you can figure out a way that would make sense. But you can see the different potencies, the different frequencies of these beings are going to conflict. And if this knife is consecrated and dedicated to that type of spirit, current, and energy, then you don't want to be using it for something else because then you're tainting your own tools. Your tools should be cherished. Your tools should be loved and taken care of with pride and consecrated properly and reconsecrated from time to time to keep those potencies within them. And you need to clean them from time to time and deneutralize the energies and then reconsecrate so that they stay fresh, they stay sharp, they stay potent, and they should be kept out of the view of the profane. Don't leave them just laying out when your buddies are over hanging out. I don't care if they're occultists or not. You should have that shit under a black cloth or a black silk cloth or kept away in a chest. I have a large oak handmade chest over here on the other side where my altar is, where the tools that I'm not using for any one given operation are wrapped in black silk and they are kept side by side in a locked chest, each individually for what they're for. I don't, once again, mix tools up. Even when they're wrapped and stuck next to each other, they're kept in each of their own chests. And then the ones that I keep on the altar at all times are laid out. No one goes into my altar, so I can leave those out. But if someone's coming over and going to come into my altar, I put the tools away or I cover them. Same with my effigies and statues. They are covered. So when you walk in, it just looks like a room with all these draperies hanging over everything. And you're like, you moving out, man? Or what the fuck's going on here? It's like, no, man, you can't see my shit. It's not for your eyes. You have to be a certain level of power and potency to be able to see my tools and the things that I work with. If you're below that, or I feel that you're below that, I won't allow you to see it. Hell yeah, Kyle. Absolutely, brother. Well, and that's the thing, Nocturne. I mean, when the people's like, I am a guru, I am a master, I am, the epiphanius, right then and there, I know you're not. Because any true master, is not going to say that. And they're going to realize that titles don't mean anything. And to brag to another man doesn't mean anything. Because the only reason you brag to another man is an ego stroke. Is to have that person be like, oh, that's cool. Or to like pump yourself up like, yeah, man, I'm fucking special. And try to like convince them. But really, you're trying to convince yourself. And anyone who's a master doesn't need to convince themselves. They already know. Doesn't need to convince others because they don't care. And once you reach that certain level of potency, you stay silent. And then the people that are out there telling everybody, damn well they're not fucking masters. They're wishing they were. They're really fucking really praying that they could get to that level, but they have to kill that ego first. And when I say kill it, I don't mean, you dissolve it completely, because you have to use it as a shell. You have to use it as a costume, as I've talked about before. You have to become a master of your world and reality and still wear that costume. But you have to understand that it is a costume. And so many people are so attached to it that they want to convince everyone, I am Crow. Hear me caw, caw. And you're going around and doing that to everybody. And people are like, man, this dude's a douche. You're trying so hard to like be that character when really you should be trying so hard to fractalize yourself from that character while still being able to be the character. There is an epidemic of narcissism. Absolutely. Like I said, that's the whole ego thing. People are so wrapped up in this fucking fantasy. We live in a matrix. We live in a programmed world, and we play as avatars. And we should know that and accept that and stay within the rules of that, but dominate that. But people do the opposite, and they fall so hard into the character, like I said, that they actually fuck up everything else. All the things around them start to go to shit because they buy so much into their character that their character starts to sink. But when you realize the character doesn't even fucking matter because you're spirit and you're endless, then you really start to reap the rewards of the world. Can you explain the difference between using sage, Palo Santo, cedar, and copal to cleanse? I heard that sage and Palo Santo just make spirits and energy go to sleep. That's a tough question, man. Different cultures believe different things. You might read from even ancient books that one culture believes to use a certain substance to cleanse and to banish away spirits. And then you read a completely different culture and heritage of people somewhere else in the world who would tell you that don't ever use that. And you're like, what the fuck? And now I'm really conflicted. Once again, it really goes to what you believe and how you resonate with it. And also trial and error and experimentation. I mean, I think that's a big thing. I will tell you, sage does work on a minuscule scale. The thing is, you always see in modern day shows and things, every time, oh, there's a demon here, there's ghosts in my house, I think they're demons, and people are like, burn sage, clear it. Or I'm a cleanser, I go to homes and I cleanse evil spirits for people. And it's like, well, what do you do? Oh, I say prayers and I burn sage. And I'm like, so you do nothing, right? Yay, like you're a specialist at fucking nothing. Sage will work, but sage is only really meant, as a lot of these things, as a neutralizer. It cleanses the plane around you in the immediate vicinity. It neutralizes all energies, just the same as like the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram and the hexagram. You're cleaning out your aura, your auric field around you, internal and external, so that you can then open the four gates and call in energies from any one specific or all four and work with them. Now, I will tell you, Palo Santo is a very powerful wood to burn. I think that it works quite well. Same thing as sage, like I said. The thing is, if you're buying a lot of industrial made, commercialized sage and Palo Santo, the intent that goes into the making of the material speaks volumes on the effectiveness that it'll have during its usage. So when you have an industrial corporation pounding out thousands and thousands of pounds of sage and just growing it, chopping it, bundling it, packaging it, sending it, there's no love there. There's no authenticity there. There's no spiritual inheritance that comes with the purchasing of that. You're just buying industrial sage and burning it in your house. If you buy homegrown sage from a practitioner who grows it and has a love for it and cherishes it, it maybe goes very far with planting it at certain lunar phases, harvesting it at certain lunar or planetary phases, sings to it, prays to it, does ritual over it, and then cuts it, you're going to get a very, very different sage and product than you are from a commercialized corporation just pumping it out for sales and for revenue. So that's a big thing we need to understand. It also goes by your intention. How strongly do you believe in the materials you're working? And how do you resonate with them? Because also you have to understand that how do you physically resonate with them? Some incenses I love and I think they work well. Some make me feel like shit and give me a headache. That could be because I just don't resonate or work well, or I'm allergic to maybe certain types of incenses or resins. But you also have to understand that a lot of the incense being sold, I would say 90%, if not higher, are infused with chemicals. They're not natural incenses, even when they promote themselves as being. You'll see 100% authentic, 100% pure, 100% clean incense. And then if you were to go to a lab and test it, you'd find out that that's absolutely not the case. And they're using chemicals, man-made fabricated chemicals in that pure incense. And you're breathing in fucking deadly poisons while you're trying to do a ritual. And I don't know about you, but when you're working with higher divinity of either angelic or demonic nature, you need to elevate your consciousness to lock into that spirit. And if you have a good, pure incense and the right type of blend, especially that is in cohesion with the spirit you're working with, you'll tap in. But if you're burning something that has like 45 different poisonous chemicals in it, you're going to have a hard time focusing. You're going to have a hard time elevating your consciousness to the plane that you need it to be. And you're going to start to feel fucked up during a ritual. And I've used some incense that I've gotten off of people before that I'm burning during ritual. And I'm really trying to lock into my scrying mirror and do some divination. And I'm like, holy fuck, I can't breathe. And my head's like, poof, 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 poof. Yeah, try to lock into a demonic spirit and talk to them when your fucking head's like, it doesn't work very well. So back to the main question, I would say do what resonates with you and work with what resonates with you. Copal is a very good one. Make sure it's pure because most of the resin copal, you're buying it in resin form, and you're burning it on coals. Most of that shit is fucking poison. It's not copal. Cedar, obviously that's a wood. So is Palo Santo. It can be. What is the intention? Get it from someone you trust. Try to find a good seller and harvester of someone who makes it and grows it themselves, not an industrial corporation. Sage, same way. That one easily grow yourself. If you have a little bit of space next to your house and you're a homeowner, if you have an apartment, you're probably fucked. But if you're a homeowner, go out and plant it. It's easy to plant, it's easy to grow, it's easy to harvest, and you'll get a shit ton of it. You'll actually stand at the end of the season and be like, I grew way too much. I have like 14 pounds of fucking sage. What am I going to do with all this? You can supply it to your friends because if you put the right motivation behind it, it'll work good for them. Let's look at some of these other comments. I see Logan left one. We'll jump into his in just 1 second. If someone has made water during an eclipse in April, what can it be used for? I mean, it just depends, man. It depends. Once again, you're asking a lot of questions that kind of have the same answer. What your intention was. April can mean a lot of things. It can go off of zodiacal wheels of what zodiacal signs are in that month and what that water might have been trying to be used for. It can go off of what lunar phase or planetary phase, what's in retrograde at that time. During the making of that water, it can go into the ritual specifically that you did over the water. What was your intent to make the water into a certain thing? It goes by intent, your will, your desire, your focus. That's magic, brother. Your intent of what it is you're trying to accomplish, your will and drive to do it, your focus to get the job done and stay focused on it, not be thinking about your workday while you're trying to charge this water, and so forth. So it just really is going off of what you're trying to accomplish. I got the info on Sage and Palo Santo from the Native American here on YouTube. I think his name is Sanchian. Well, once again, if you were getting the Palo Santo and the Sage directly from Native Americans that grew it, yes, it's powerful, it's potent, it was grown with care in almost all cases. But if you're buying it from the ABC Corporation on Amazon, it's gonna be fucking nothing. You might as well go buy grass or cut grass in your front yard, dry it, and burn it on a coal, and you'll have about the same effect. All right, Logan, we got you here, brother. I agree completely. All energy makes a difference, including intention, etc. Well said. There's always the chaos factor, but everything makes a difference. I mean, exactly. Everything makes a difference. And like I said, you can burn Amazon sage and it still work for you because, once again, your intent, your focus, and also what you're working with. If you have very low, minuscule spirits, that might be enough to drive them out. If you're working with a heavy hitter, and you truly have the metaphysical condensation still in your temple of a very powerful being or deity, burning Amazon sage probably isn't going to get rid of it. You need to do proper ritual. I mean, these are only additives. Incense are enhancers usually to get your mind state where it needs to be to enhance your consciousness. To use incense or fumigations as a expeller or as an exorcist tool to banish out or force out things does work. But if you're going to do that, I would say you want to go with the good shit. You want to use materials that are pure, materials that have been worked with properly to do so. And there's a lot of different books out there that are good on that, making fumigations, making herbal baths. I would say that would be your first and foremost thing to do. Perform a banishing ritual, burn some kind of leaving incense to get rid of any type of spirits that are around, and study making certain types of baths. When I say baths, I don't mean just in the tub. I mean bottles of liquid that you consecrate with different herbs and different things that are for the purpose of expelling out energies and neutralizing. And then you can use a spray bottle and spray it all over your temple. And if you do that on top of a fumigation, incense, and a ritual to banish out, you've done about all you're going to be able to do right now to force out any extra resonance of any type of spirits that are there. And you can also use those baths on yourself in a tub and scrub yourself and cleanse your aura, because there are a lot of astral parasites that will stick to you, that will come through and attach themselves to you. So it's a great way of cleansing yourself. Externally in your temple, externally in your body, internally in your auric field that you're working with, and internally in your spiritual self. So I think that's important to know and study. So this, I haven't read it all yet. I'll read it right now, but I think it's a good thing to touch on. It says, problem is, if you drive out negativity out of a form built to house negativity, it leaves the item / sage, whatever, with a wanting, a need to reclamate its physical form to magnetize with new intent. Yes. Hold on one second. Here's another comment here. So yeah, probably the goal should remain growing it with more love. Agree. Yeah, I mean, it's not often I have to force something out of my ritual space. And I do a lot of working of different natures within the same space. Now, I always still do a neutralizing of my space. it should be a part of your everyday practice. And we've talked about this before. I mean, even Ordo Templi Orientis, Golden Dawn, AA, a lot of different organizations out there um, believe in doing a daily practice of banishing. And like with Golden Dawn, for example, you do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, the lesser banishing ritual of the hexagram, the greater banishing ritual of the pentagram and hexagram. You're doing this because you're banishing out the elemental sides. You're banishing out the planetary influences as well. And if people think of banishing in a strange way. You're just severing the auric field. What's around you and these things that kind of lay stagnant, and there can be pools of stagnant energy that are not conducive to helping you and can drag you down. They're dead weight. When you cleanse those out, they're gone, and you bring in good energies. Excuse me. So if you banish out a Saturnian energy that's been lingering around that's not good, doesn't mean that you can't turn around and do a ritual to then invoke the elementals, invoke the planetary currents, and bring them back in. But you are getting rid of the stagnant, stale air, and you're bringing in fresh air. And I don't know about you guys, but I want to breathe fresh air and not stagnant, stinky ass stank air. So that's how I look at it: is you are banishing out the stagnicity of spirits and energies and currents that are around you, your temple, in your temple, and pushing them out, and then can turn around and bring that energy back in. You'll notice if you don't banish and you call the same spirit every night over and over and over and over and over again for a month, and you were to jot down in your grimoire all the different experiences, then take another month and banish every single day and call that spirit that night, or right after banishing, and call them in and do it over and over and over again, and compare the differences of your interactions with the spirit. You'll notice some startling differences, and notice the temperament and attributes of the spirit will actually change, because the spirits are half you, half internally you, half external outside of you. It's that one-to-one counterpart that I've taught and talk about so much. And if you're dirty and your space is dirty, then you're getting a dirtier side of the spirit. If you were cleansed, tempered, and focused, your space is tempered, cleansed, and focused. You bring them together, you have a tighter, more focused, clean energy, clean interaction and communication. Doesn't take away from the spirit. In fact, I think it amplifies the spirit. You're not getting rid of them. You're just getting rid of those stagnant pockets of energy. It's like if you go into a room that there was just a really bad fight in, arguing, screaming, smashing of shit, that energy sticks in the room. If you were outside and heard it and you walk in, a lot of times if you're sensitive enough, you feel it in the air. Not just because psychologically you knew something just happened there, but spiritually when you walk in, you're like, oh, I can feel the negativeness in this air, the negativity. It's because that is what I have teamed as metaphysical condensation. Metaphysical energy, spiritual energy that comes off of us and sticks to the walls, the curtains, the floors, the people. Metaphysical condensation. And when you walk into the room, you feel it. Well, that room's not really conducive to growth right now. It's toxic. But if you go in and you were to take time to cleanse the room out while the people are around, or cleanse them each individually, cleanse the room, the tempers drop, the anger drops, people feel better. But a lot of times the reason fights happen with friends or with family, for spiritual practitioners that is because they're not cleansing themselves. And they're walking around with a lot of different energies on them, some adverse to one another and some adverse to you. And with all these different influences, because currents and energy influence us, they're different influences. They're the devils on our shoulders, right? They start to pull you different ways, and they tear you apart and make you confused and make you angry and kind of make you agitated. And if you let that go, it's toxic. But if you cleanse every day and you banish away every day, you notice that you're a lot less angry, you're a lot less scatterbrained, you're a lot less lost in your thoughts. You become more focused, more clean, more powerful. So I know there was a long rant right there, but I mean, that's how I look at things, how I've always practiced with it, and the effects that I've gotten from it. We got here, spirits will act funky if you feel funky. Same way with people. If you smell funky, then others will act funny. Well, so look at it from an opposite perspective. You put spirits will act funky if you feel funky. Let's look at it that if the spirits are funky, you'll act funky. Not that you're funky so they act funky, which can be true. But when you don't cleanse them, when you don't change up the mixture, if you use the same bowl to cook cookies mix cookies every time, and you don't clean the bowl, the first batch is going to taste great. The second batch will probably still taste pretty good. Third batch is starting to taste a little weird. By the fifth batch, those cookies taste like ass. And it's because they're not fresh cookies. You're getting all this residue and gunked up shit in the bowl that was from the last 3-4 batches that you didn't. Now, if you're making them all in the same day, that's one thing. But I'm saying over like a 3-4 week span, you never clean the bowl. You're mixing that shit with a whisk. You're chunking off dried ass pieces of fucking egg and mixture and chocolate chips and their new cookies, and they smell good. And then you pull it out and bite into it, and it's like licking a taint. You're saying, what the fuck went wrong? Well, it's because you didn't clean your bowl, you sick fuck. That's how your rituals and your temple and your tools and everything should be looked at. And it doesn't matter to me, and this is my opinion only, it doesn't matter if you're working with chaotic energy, with Arcane energy, with serpentine energy, with infernals, with devils, whatever the fuck people want to call them. It doesn't matter, because I work heavy with dark energy and I still cleanse. And it doesn't take away from the gnosis that I get, or the knowledge, or the phenomena that I experience, and the connectiveness between them. And like I said, I think it brings you closer because it's clean. It's clean energy. And that's how we need to look at all aspects. There's always a lot of analogies we can use, like the cookies. I think that's a strong one. I don't do drugs, but it's like drugs. If you're gonna step out of your way to put something into your body to fuck you up, to make you feel good, to escape the world for a while, do you want the good shit, the pure shit that you're willing to spend a couple extra fucking, dollars on, that you're willing to drive a little further to get, that you're willing to spend more time and energy to go pick up? Or do you want the shit from next door, from your neighbor who's stepped on, who's horrible, who's not going to give you that clean high, but it's a little closer, it's a little easier, it's a little less energy, and it's a little cheaper? A lot of people will go that cheaper route. It's easy. But transcendence and gnosis and growth are not supposed to be easy. That's why most people will fail at it. I've said it many, many times. The kingdoms of the great must be built upon the bones of the fallen. And I'm a big advocate for that. A lot of people will fail, and that's good, because we need those bones to grind into the mortar for our bricks. We need those bones to crush down and make a foundation for us to build off of. I don't pity the weak. Doesn't mean, like earlier, I do things for the public and things to help out, absolutely. But I'm saying there's a lot of people who will want to grow, and they'll start doing it, and it's hard. And they're like, I can't do this. It's tough. Well, then don't fucking do it and fail. And be here again another life and another life and another life. I don't feel pity for you. You have to reach in and pull that shit out and be a fucking soldier. It's a war all around us every day. Even in peaceful times, there is war brewing all around you. It's a spiritual war, folks. Really? Hello. I always say your name fucked up. I'm a smart guy, but sometimes I can't read the best on certain names. I like butcher people's names. Or I'll say a name that should be normal and it's not. I'm like, Deborah, how you doing? It's Deborah, you fucking asshole. And I'm like, no, bitch, it's Deborah. Literally spelled Deborah. Can't help it if you want to fucking go with a crazy accent to it. But yeah, I always say it fucked up. But like I said, that's my belief in the way I work with spirits. And I think it's actually more important for darker energy, because it has a tendency to be more sludgy. So, not cleaning afterwards is just throwing yourself into a tar pit. And then you're surprised that you're stuck. You're like, how did I get here? Well, because, asshole, you threw yourself in the fucking middle of the tar pit. That's how it works. And that is true, Nocturne. If you don't struggle, you don't succeed. What you'll often find is the trust fund kids, born rich, brand new Benzes and shit at 16, house bought for them when they're 20, college paid, vacation to an exotic place every year as a kid growing up. Those kids that were given everything, most of the world envies. Oh man, I wonder what that life was like. Sucks. That's what it's like. Because what you'll find is, for a good chunk of their life, they're happy, right? But then they become adults. And they might still have all that money. But they have no pride in anything. Because they didn't really earn anything. And they have this dissonance between everything, that nothing's connected to them, because when you don't have to work for something, you don't build that bridge. You just buy it, right? You just get it given to you. And it's what in Kabbalism they call the bread of shame. It's how the world was said to be created, that the creator, Ein, which created Ein Sof, which created Ein Sof Ar, Ein, which created Ein Sof, which created Ein Sof Chasek, which Ein Sof Ar created the Sitra HaKadusha, and the Ein Sof Hasek created the Sitra Akra. During that creation process, it was giving. It created to want to give. And what was receiving, it created to want to give, to give, to give. But it kept receiving. So it really wasn't creating anything, because it was given what it had to give. So at one moment, it shut itself off from source. And when it shut itself off from source, it retained what it was given, but it no longer was getting the direct rays from the Godhead. And when it shut it off and forced it back, the force coming at it, the force leaving it, hit, created the Big Bang of creation. Created the Zitzum, created the vacuum of reality. And then what was there started to create and believe that it was God. I am your God, and there are no other gods before me. Even though it was created from something else, because it shut itself off from that and forced it back, it became the creator. The energy it had was able to now create things below it, and it was the highest in the totem pole in that Zitzum bubble. And it did so through a process, like I said, called the bread of shame. Bread of shame is that I was always given everything and nothing means anything. I have to earn it for myself. And that's how, in one version, there's different ways we can look at it, way too dense of a subject. But you could say that forcing back and being segregated off created YHVH, created Yahweh, the demiurge, in one way of looking at the creation story. Hey, Vicky. Yes, like an electric current, absolutely. Nocturne says, those are the fucking people that treat me like a child because of my autism, crying with a loaf of bread under your arm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that don't see things, and they see them in hindsight. There's a lot of people that treat people like shit because they're the rich kids growing up, like I said. But it's funny because the tables turn. A lot of the people that were picked on as a kid who didn't have a lot of things, not always, obviously there's always different levels of things, but a lot of people that were picked on will grow up and become successful and very happy. And then a lot of the times the people that picked on everybody and they were the rich kids and were given everything are so happy as kids, and they grow up to be the people that off themselves or fucking beat their wife and children and hate their lives. And it works out that way a lot of times. It's just like a lot of times the ugly kids in high school grow up to be the ones that are great looking, and all the beautiful people in high school grow up to be fat and ugly. Not always, like I said, but it happens that way a lot. You look at those girls in high school that are like supermodels at like 16, you're like, how's this work? And they grow up and you see them 25 years later and you're like, oh shit, the world was not good to you, honey. And then you look at that kid who was maybe 300 pounds in high school and fucking goofy and dorky and everybody made fun of. And now you look at him and he's an absolute hunk. He's built. He's got a successful job. Has everything he ever wanted. And you're like, it's funny how the tables turn. But a lot of times those people who didn't have it had to fight for it. There's still those people that didn't have it that folded like a lawn chair and gave in and just sucked. They were the bones that the temple was built off of. But there's those people that said, enough is enough. I'm going to fucking earn my due, earn my food. And they kept pushing and pushing and they became successful. The ones that were given everything stayed in that stagnant level so much that they didn't care. I don't need anything. I don't have to work for anything. It's all here. And then later on, they're like, but I don't appreciate anything. And I want to appreciate something. But it's already been so many years of disconnectedness that they can't. So that happens a lot. Stick around for a little bit longer, answer some more questions or any comments you guys have. If you're listening out there and you want to throw something out there, feel free to do so. Going to leave here I'm going to leave here in a little bit. Excuse me. I got some prayers and some things I need to do in my temple before bedtime. So I did say prayers too for those that are like, prayers, absolutely, prayers. There was this girl who bullied me during middle and high school. She became the valedictorian. Saw her 4 years ago working in a grocery store. I think she got fired. Well, that happens. I think about the kids I went to school with. There's a lot of them that were, the preppy kids, the jocks, the rich kids. A lot of them might even still be doing okay these days, but they look like shit, or they just don't seem happy in life. Like, you go see them, or they're the people that are at a bar every night. And it's like life just fucking threw you a shitty hand, because if you're someone who's at a bar every night of your life, life's not good. And you'll have a lot of those people that go to the bar and try to tell you that their life's good and how successful and things, but they're not, because if they were, why the fuck would they be at the bar? If you drink every night of your life, if you use a substance every night of your life, you're not happy. I used to believe that. When I first met my wife a long time ago, I was partying like a fucking savage. I was going out and just getting wild at every chance I could, both with drugs and partying and drinking and being promiscuous with all kinds of different women. And I convinced myself at that time that I was happy. And I even told her when we first met, I'm like, I love my life and I'm really happy. And she says, no, you're not. And I says, yeah, I am. And I truly thought I was. No, you're not. She says, if you were happy, you wouldn't feel the need to have to be high or drunk all the time. You wouldn't feel the need to want to be in a different woman's bed every night, because that doesn't make you happy. It's only false flashes of what you think is happiness, but none of it is at the end of the night. And it took a little bit of time and some reflection back that I remember, like, first year we were dating. At one point I said to her, I said, baby, you were right. Looking back, I was horribly unhappy, but I tricked myself into believing I was. And looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, every night being at the bar, every night doing substances, every night trying to hook up with all these different women. And it's like, that's not happiness. That is a cry for help. And you have to find it within yourself, or hopefully have good people around you that'll save you or put you in the right direction. She was my savior. She literally got my life on track. She put me back to where she got me without having to do anything. Just by being the great partner, allowed me to find it within myself to be the best version of me that I knew I could be, that I had hidden away for a while. And it's that same type of story. I was the kid that a lot of people thought was going to die. I had people prior to the time period I just told you, but even back in high school, I was a party animal. I was a wild guy, and I had different classmates that are like, "I can't believe you're still alive." I got told that a couple times. I'm like, "What? Oh, we thought you would have died by now." I'm like, "What the fuck kind of thing is that to say to someone? Oh man, you were just so crazy and you partied so much. We can't believe you're still alive, and look how good you're doing for yourself." A lot of people are really surprised at that. I have a great career. I have a great, beautiful family, a beautiful home. Have all the shit that I want. And it's not a way of tooting my own horn and saying, "Oh, look at me, look at me." No, not at all. I'm very humble and very appreciative of the things I have. But it's only by taking stock of where you are, where you've come from, and where you want to be. What are the steps to get there? And how can I act every day in accordance with that game plan? How can I every day take that extra step that my neighbors, that the people down the street, that the kids I went to school with, that my enemies, that my friends, all of them aren't doing? How can I excel past everyone I know? Maybe that's waking up 2 hours earlier than you have to. Maybe that's going to bed an hour later than you should because you're working, not because you're fucking off or partying, because you're actually spending that time to your advantage. Life is what you make it. It's what you put into it, you will get back. You reap what you sow. It's so many people will talk about wanting the harvest and never plant any seeds. How insane is that? Vicky, it's great. Very good news on the temple, folks. By December, it'll be done. Now, when I say done, it's been an ongoing plan for a decade. But the temple has been rebuilt since the flood, so thank you for asking. It's even more beautiful than it was before, and I am happy to announce that in the next 3 months, it'll be finished for the first time ever, and it is a spectacle to see. It is a beautiful, beautiful temple. Like I said, 5 altars, a lifetime of building my tools for each of the 5 altars, and I'm truly humbled to be able to give this sacred space to my spirits and to work with them every day over there, to not only do ritual, but to do reflection, to do prayers, to do mantras, to do meditation. It is my sacred space, and like I said, 3 months, it'll be done, and I'm so fucking pumped. It's taken me 20 years, and it'll be done in 3 months. I've seen several who were bullies, like rich kids, and now are drug possessed on a street corner. And that's it. It's like I said, that happens a lot. A lot of the kids I went to school with are dead. So it's funny because some of the same people that thought I was going to be dead, they're fucking dead now. So tables have turned heavily. They were the kids who judged me in high school. They're like, fucking druggy, fucking weirdo. And then it's like, grow up and it's like, well, how'd that work out for you, asshole? Thank you, Nocturne. I appreciate that, man. I do. I have a great partner, great kids. Family is important. I wasn't a party kind of guy. Even when I go to concerts, I don't drink. I go for the experience and the journey to and from the venue, and that's the way it should be. Nothing wrong with partying a little bit, but if you don't, there's nothing wrong with being straight edge and clean. I can tell you throughout a lot of chunk of my life, I wasn't. I mean, I was partying hard. Everything you could get your hands on or I could get my hands on, I was putting into my body and going deep. Like I said, telling myself I was happy, but looking over the first 20-some years of my life and realizing I was a fucking wreck. And I did anything I could and everything I could to escape reality. And now I don't party at all. I drink beer. That's it. I haven't touched drugs in a very long time and have no plans to ever again. Thank you, guys. Take a look at the time. Couple more things, and I'm going to jump off here. Nocturne says, you have spookies, a term of endearment for spirits. I certainly do, man. I work with some interesting characters, and not a lot that people know of. That's the thing, is like, and there's nothing wrong with it. Please, no one take any offense to it. But what you'll find, there's different levels of practitioner and practice and occultism. on a public scale. Obviously, there's a lot of people around the world that are not even on the internet that are amazing magicians. But I'm saying, like, when you're on a public scale and you share your work and you talk about your work and you tote different posts and this and that, what you'll find is a lot of the same spirits being talked about. Now, what's interesting about me, and I can only speak about my experience, is I don't share a lot of my own private work. And I don't share the spirits that I work with on a regular basis ever. And most, even if I did, most have never heard of any of these spirits. But what you'll find is, like, people always mention spirits from the Grand Grimoire and from the Grimoire Virum, and from the Heptameron, from the Ars Almudel, from the Lemegeton, from the Red Dragon, from the Black Pullet. You know, they're naming, and some of those other ones are more obscure, so you don't hear them as much. But you're always hearing spirits from the Lemegeton, the famous 72 infernal demons. You're always hearing stuff from the Grand Grimoire and the Grimoire Virum. And is that just because that's what's popular and people get into that and stay with that? Or are they bullshitting everybody and they're just using the most commonly known spirits because they know others are going to know about that, and it helps them push that agenda? When I post up a lot of posts, I don't talk necessarily about specific spirits, and sometimes I do. They are spirits you know of, but that's because I am only letting those ones be seen, and maybe some other people out there are doing the same. But I think a lot of people are only working with, you know, the spirits of the Lemegeton. They're working with Valak. They're working with Vapula. They're working with Paimon. They're working with Amdusias. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's so many more spirits out there that you can work with. And the thing is, this is one of the last many subjects we'll get into this evening. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your participation. And thank you for your love and support. I cherish you guys. I really appreciate you. The problem with working with a spirit such as one of the 72 of the Lemegeton is you have had thousands of people work with that spirit. Good people, bad people, caring people, hate-filled people, people that live by a code of honor, people that are horrible fucking rapist pedos, people that follow diabolism, people that follow Sufism, people that follow Kabbalism, people that follow Luciferianism, people that follow Catholicism. So what I'm getting at is you have this hodgepodge of understanding, of conjuration, of belief, of expectancy. And all of these things are also a part of spirit. So now, painted on top of this archetype, on top of this thought form, on top of this entity, this deity, this spirit, if they are not, and you don't want to consider them an egregore themselves, well, then we certainly, as the human collective, have painted egregoric masks on top of the spirits. And that's why I say through cleansing, through deep working and relationship building, you can crack that mask, tear it off, and see who that deity is underneath, the real them. But a lot of times you're only getting that dirty version. You're only getting that clothed, hidden version. You're getting that egregoric mask that is the collective conscious perception of thousands of years of practice of all kinds of different people all around the world of all different backgrounds. So now you're trying to fight against a current. You're trying to swim upriver against the current. And that's a very hard thing to do, because there's all these other beliefs that maybe you don't believe about this spirit, but they're still factored into the conjuration of the being that you are bringing into your temple. And people just constantly want to work with those 72, like they're the only 72 spirits that exist in the left-hand path. And while they are powerful, while they are amazing to work with, and while I have gained so much knowledge and growth from them, and I forever will cherish that, we have to ask ourselves, at what point do we say no and we break beyond that and try to discover other spirits or work with spirits just as powerful, if not more powerful, that are not tainted? Maybe only 100 people in existence have ever worked with this spirit. And those 100 probably have pushed past that fucking mundane lower level of occultism and left-hand path ideology and have gotten to the root of it. So it's not going to be as tainted, not going to be as impure. It's going to be a pure contact. That's the type of work I like to do. You know, there's nothing wrong from time to time doing a conjuration with one of the 72, sure. I still do every now and again. I have a lot of tools over there specifically consecrated to some of those 72. But most of them are gathering dust because you can outgrow your spirit. It's not to say that they're not great to work with, as I said. But you reach a point where they've taught you what they can teach you, and it's time to move on to deeper levels. So just something that is food for thought, folks. You don't have to agree. That's fine. Take what resonates, discard the rest, question everything, including me. But that is my experience through years and years of practice. That really, if you're just doing the 72, you know, you claim to be a left-hand path practitioner, someone who is a wolf among sheep, someone who walks their own path and doesn't need a collective and doesn't need the herd. But yet you're following the magical practices and the instructions and conjuring the same spirits that every other fucking person that you know is conjuring. Are you really a wolf? Or are you a sheep dressed as a wolf trying to fool yourself into believing you're one? Think about it. I would not nocturne, no. Like I said, I don't. To do the broadcast like I do here from time to time is nice to talk to people about a slew of different subjects on these open discussions, and then have my episodes where I talk about a specific event that's happened in my life and sometimes answer some questions. But I don't get into like the having a relationship with a spirit spouse. I believe you can have relationships with spirits to different degrees. I've never been one to call spirit my spouse or my friend, except for in one specific practice that is something very different than everything that most people here probably even know about or follow. But like in my infernal work or my diabolical work, these spirits are my allies. I work with them. They're not my friends. They're my allies. There's a difference. There are spirits that I've had a connection with and have had specific feelings or have had specific connections. There are dreams that have happened. There are incubuses and succubus types of spirits that I've interacted with over time, but those are side effects of the spirit, side effects of the ritual. I don't believe that if I had a dream, even of a sexual nature with a female deity, that I'm in some type of relationship congress with that spirit. We had an interaction with one another. You have to be very careful about starting to name spirits as your friend or as your concubine. Like I said, there are specific African practices that is different because it's a whole different type of spirit, whole different type of work, whole different understanding. That can be the case. But still not in the same way that a lot of Americans and a lot of left-hand path practitioners think. But no, it's not something I would talk too much about. Other than that, guys, that's it for me tonight. Last Caw, Frater Crow, Celestial Oddities Radio, Coterie of Samil, Arcane, Occult Order. Make sure you like the page, Celestial Oddities Radio, and the Coterie of Samil, Arcane, Occult Order on Facebook. You can follow my personal page, although I don't accept friend requests. So a lot of people seem to find that out. I get added by like 100 people a month, and I don't accept any of them. Some of them get butthurt. I don't accept a bunch of people. Follow my pages that I work on. You don't need it in my personal life. If you're already there, so be it, but I don't accept friend requests anymore. Other than that, I love you guys. Thank you. Much love. Step into the circle. Practice. Study. Be diligent about your work. Be disciplined. Go out and fucking get it and create the world that you want. It's up to you. No one else. You are the one that either will build it or let it crumble. No one else. Have a good night, guys.